And greetings all. My name's Adam Bolton, and my article presentation will be covering Angela Chen's article entitled How Companies Are Promoting Mindfulness at the Workplace. Our quick agenda is as follows. We're going to define mindfulness, talk a little bit about where the article is going. It was an interview, in fact, with an author that wrote a book about mindfulness in the workplace. We'll discuss a few reasons why I thought this article was interesting. We'll tie this back to our pioneers of management, and we'll focus on some so what type of thoughts that come out of this after we reflect on what the article's saying, how this relates to our course material in the pioneers of management, and kind of what are some takeaways for us. Then we'll wrap it up in a summary. So mindfulness defined. It's there before you, and in the center, uh, I have highlighted accepting your thoughts without judgment is without a doubt the overarching theme of what mindfulness is. So it's a meditative practice where you are able to kind of step outside yourself for a moment and reflect on kind of how you're feeling without judgment of it. So my question would be, how do you do that? And what's that like? Um, and through my just some quick cursory research on how that's done and what that really means. Of course, this is not to be confused with some type of how-to video on how to do this. I'm by no means a practitioner of this, but I've heard it being likened to uh, a scientific experiment where, let's say, a scientist is watching some animal behavior in the natural world, and whatever it is that those animals are doing, it it's just being observed, without emotion or without judgment. Things are just happening, and you're just able to watch it. Uh, and my next question was, okay, that now what? All right, let's say we could calm the noise down in our life, take a few deep breaths, and say, okay, my emotional state is this. I'm feeling this, and you recognize that. Okay, now what? And apparently, uh, some of the things I've watched and I've read, they've said that uh, you'll be able to find out kind of where these feelings are coming from a lot easier. And one video I watched was discussing how very stimulus driven we are throughout our day, and how those are linked to emotions and stress more aptly. So as you can see down in our orange claims claims to block there, kind of how mindfulness is fitting into an overall satisfied life. These are some large claims. As they tie into your health benefits, here's a laundry list of some things there, but it all really ties back to stress and your mental health as it applies to stress and has that physiological impact on you, and how these meditative techniques, this mindfulness technique, where you just kind of stop what you're doing and take a few deep breaths and really concentrate on holding whatever emotions you're feeling, setting them aside, and then observing them almost like this out of body or out of mind type of setting, which, oh, by the way, is so foreign to me, I can't even begin to tell you. It's kind of why I was drawn to this, because I just it's just so out there. But I definitely see a need for something that can balance what's going on with the what I perceive to be as an increasing stress work environment in many arenas. Okay, so the article was was basically a back and forth between the author of the article, the journalist Angela Chen, and David Gellis. Featured down here in the lower right hand side, there's his cover of his book there, Mindful Work: How Meditation is Changing Business from the Outside. And what Dave's doing is he's saying, mindfulness is profitable and he cites examples using Etna there in the center was one of the empirical evidence, piece of empirical evidence he used to to state his claims there. But he also said a few other companies had attempted this. Monsanto, for one, attempted it, but it failed. They no longer are promoting mindfulness at the workplace. He didn't really go into why. I just thought it was interesting that he mentioned Monsanto. And they tried it and it failed. General Mills, Aetna, Google, these are three companies that have implemented mindfulness at a corporate level and are seeing some type of benefits. Aetna, for one, is definitely looking at the decrease in out-of-pocket healthcare costs. So David Gillis here states, there's three reasons why he thinks mindfulness is really starting to filter into our workplace. And the first reason is, again, he states that there's scientific evidence, there's research that supports these claims, and he said that it mounts and mounts every year. So there's evidence for that. Secondly, there's a cultural acceptance for more of an Eastern culture, influencing our Western work lives. So I mean, 30 years ago, where was all these yoga classes that are kind of ubiquitous these days? So perhaps that riding that wave, mindfulness has a smoother transition into our work lives. And then thirdly, he states that there's a much greater need now than there ever has been. I think that's kind of a relative statement. I ask any miner from the 1930s if they needed some stress reduction, but I think it's the nature of the work at hand. I think when we're locked into an office and we're tied to a laptop and we're staring at screens and we have these what I consider to be very unnatural types of duties as it pertains to us physiologically. I think there's no outlet for this stress, and I think anything that's going to balance this out is an important conversation to have. So I chose this article for several reasons. First of all, it's a total foreign concept. I like to read new things, and that's kind of what drew me to it. I knew absolutely nothing about it, so its uniqueness was definitely attractive. I definitely see offices as being an unnatural environment, and the stress release is just anything to help that smoothness out. Just sitting down for 8 hours out of the day, and you're not outside. Anything to help that condition is definitely a positive trend. I do believe we're overconnected. When I was a defense contractor, I got handed my third phone, two government phones and a corporate phone. I knew something needs to happen. We really need to look at our task organization and really discuss is this really necessary? Is any one person that critical? And really are our mechanisms really in place to ease this up? And that's a great conversation to have. Preventive care versus sick care. I think anything that's proactive for health is great, as opposed to, hey, when you do hit the dirt, we have a little safety net for you. I think that's the wrong time to start having these discussions. And again, just curiosity. If your boss came up to you and say, hey, we're going to work on some meditative techniques, on Thursday for a couple hours, I don't know. I don't think I'd know what my reaction would be. Relating this into our pioneers and managers was relatively easy, I thought, because it's all about improving the work situation, and that's kind of what these guys are on the, that's why they're in the book. So not only did they smooth out manufacturing and improve techniques, but they also focused on the human being as well. So Robert Owens, Charles Cabbage. I mean, these things are round peg, round hole type of concept. So how would we fit mindfulness in the workplace in our day? Is almost, this whole, new philosophy for Robert Owens, just examining what's best for the worker, because there's going to be this mutuality of their health and the firm's success. And they're both highlighted there on this slide. Also, Andrew Urey, Charles Dupin, Urey's moral principle of action has to state, if we're driving people into the ground with stress, if we're sick all the time, if it's just an unpleasant workplace to be at, how can we possibly be effective down the road in the long term? We're going to have spurious costs that we just can't really see on paper at the moment that are going to flesh out. I'm sure that's not a foreign concept to many of us. And what I liked about Dupin's piece here is, the desired work levels, with the least expenditure of worker energy. So, that's just efficiency. It's cheaper, and it's less stress on all stakeholders. So when we do reflect back on our 4 pioneers of management, I really came up with one quick question, like one big takeaway is, how has management in any given firm managed stress, as we know it today, in our cultural definition of stress? Sometimes, in places I worked at, have the stressed out look about you is definitely, not a good look, regardless of whether you were stressed or not. It was almost to your doom if you were to say, I don't think I can get this done, or, this is really affecting me in some way. It's definitely a sign of weakness. So this is a step to really, really address that. So some 3 big takeaways from this would be, just some, your situational awareness. Hey, mindfulness is happening. It's out there. We're bringing this meditative technique into the workplace. There's a reason for it, and it's happening. And managers really have to understand, its impact in the long term. And we're almost at the point now where you have to consider, why should you not do it? Also, just to take a look at how stress is impacting your own firm or your own life, positively and negatively. Stress is required to conduct the mission, regardless. You need stress, but what's the right amount? That conversation can be unending. But how can we improve that? How can we have this stress load and accomplish the mission without just running people into the ground all at the same time? And then lastly, linking healthy work programs to cost is powerful. So if we can prove that these things that may not fit our culture necessarily, but if we can tie that to dollar signs, down there, whatever it may be. We're talking about mindfulness now, but who knows what it's going to be 10, 15 years ago, down the road. It has to be tied to cost. It has to be, we've improved our efficiency in this way, and we tie it to dollar signs, and that's I think is the important piece of David Gellis's work is he's really tying it to cost, and because that's what people are going to pay attention to. Well, in summation, we discussed this, mindfulness in the workplace. Angela Chen's article, and again in the Wall Street Journal. We kind of define mindfulness. We discussed kind of why I was drawn to this article. We also tied this back to the Pioneers of Management. Very strong parallels going on there, and a few takeaways. Again, how is stress really impacting us, and what can we do about it? It's just a conversation starter. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I hope it starts a domino effect kind of down the road. I know it will for me. I just, knowing the amount of stress you could place on somebody as a manager is a powerful tool. So thank you for watching. This has been Adam Bolton. Thank you very much, and Godspeed.